Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers R.E.D. G1 Soundwave. Now so far I have reviewed the R.E.D. Optimus Prime and Megatron, and so far this R.E.D. line has been so divisive for me. I'm really unsure as to whether or not I'm going to continue collecting these figures beyond Wave 1, as Optimus Prime I found to be a huge letdown. However, was slightly won over with Megatron. Although he wasn't perfect, he was certainly a step up from Optimus Prime, at least where the quality control was concerned. So here's hoping that Soundwave does follow suit with his master Megatron and we get a decent figure from this release. Taking a look here at the packaging, you can see that we've got an amazing image here of the G1 Soundwave looking absolutely incredible. We've also got the colour scheme of Soundwave slowly fading away. I really do believe that the R.E.D. box design is some of the best that I've ever seen produced by Hasbro. The G1 Transformers logo as well as Soundwave. We've got this window view display which clearly showcases Soundwave, and as we take a look here at the side of the packaging, we've also got the array of accessories that Soundwave does indeed come with. As we take a look here at the back of the packaging, we've got some tremendous product shots which in my opinion actually look better than the figure that I do actually have in hand. You can see that they are also showing some of the features, such as how you can actually insert the cassette tape that this figure does indeed include. And then finally, just taking a look here at the bottom of the packaging, this is indeed a non-converting figure. So for those of you who do not like non-converting Transformers, then this figure here is going to be an easy miss. So without further ado, let's crack Soundwave open and see what awaits us inside. And so here we have the R.E.D. Soundwave opened up, and whilst not as bad of an experience as I had with Optimus Prime, he certainly is nowhere near as good as the experience I had with Megatron, and even Megatron was not 100% perfect. There are just some flaws with these figures that I'm really unsure as to how no one in the factory or in the design process noticed before putting them into mass production. Taking a look here at Soundwave in his robot mode, as far as aesthetic goes, colour wise as well as sculpt work is pretty much spot on to what we got in the original G1 series. I cannot fault them for that, and I really can't fault them in regards to them not transforming, as I guess that is the entire gimmick of this particular line. But there are just some things that I believe that even the figures that can transform do better than these particular releases. Taking a look here at the details, the head sculpt has come out really nicely. You can see here that we have got a grey paint application used for the mouth plate, as well as a section there on the side of his helmet. Personally, I would have rather this been a metallic silver. I'm quite unsure as to why they did opt to go with the grey. It doesn't look bad, however, I just think that the silver maybe would have complemented the sculpt a little better. We of course do have his red visor, so that is one thing going for this figure. Instead of giving us the yellow visor, they have opted to give us the more accurate red visor. And as we take a look here to the torso, this is actually my favourite aspect of the figure overall. You can see how we've got this transparent window with the Decepticon insignia, and the yellow paint apps have all been applied really well. Now something which I think is actually quite a nice touch and attention to detail is that if you do push this tiny button here, the cassette deck will indeed slightly push out due to there being a mechanism, and once it has done so, it does create a little lip where you can just bring the cassette deck down, and you can see that we do indeed have one cassette tape. Now taking a look at this, of course, as these figures are non-transforming, this here doesn't transform into Laserbeak, and that is probably one of the only areas of critique I have in regards to the accessories, is that they've packaged a Laserbeak in with Soundwave that is not in his robot mode. So really this is quite pointless in my opinion. Even if they had included a Laserbeak in his robot mode that couldn't have transformed, I wouldn't have had an issue with that. But seeing as they've only released it here in the cassette tape mode, personally I think that that is a little bit of a letdown. The details are quite nice on it, however, and the sculpt work has come out incredibly crisp and precise, and it certainly does look like that of a cassette tape. It's just, given the option, I would rather have Laserbeak in his robot mode than here in his cassette tape mode. Taking a look here throughout the rest of the figure, however, you can see that we've got some nice details here where the crutch plate is concerned. These are of course the buttons for when Soundwave would of course transform into his cassette player mode. And as we take a look here towards the arms, this figure still suffers from a design flaw that we got with Optimus and Megatron, and that is they have used a different colour of pin for the actual bicep area, where they do indeed have the blue pins. We can clearly see them here, so I have no idea as to why they didn't use this grey pin for this particular thigh joint and then this blue pin here for the bicep joint. Personally, to me it's just completely baffling, especially from a design perspective. There must have been someone that said, we are really messing up the colours here, why don't we swap them around? But of course this figure here is in hand and this is the finished product, so they obviously didn't think that way. But as we take a look here towards the arms, you can see how we do have some nice sculpt work going on here for the forearms, a really nice red strip, and I do like how he does come with a pair of interchangeable hands, of which I'll showcase later on in the review. As we take a look here down to the lower section, these are very blocky in terms of their design, however of course match the animation, and we do have some nice clean paint apps here for the knee pads as well as here for the lower shins. As we take a look here towards the back of the figure, as this does not transform, this is really clean and is probably the most G1 accurate Soundwave we are ever ever going to get from Hasbro. You can see how we do have some nice details such as the dials on the back of Soundwave's leg, and I do like this entire region here once again matching his on-screen appearance. As far as articulation is concerned, the figure is actually quite well articulated. The head here is on a double ball joint, so we get a ball joint at the top of the head as well as here at the neck, and utilising both of them you are really able to manipulate the head around in whatever way you so desire. The shoulder cannon is on a swivel joint, however is way too easy to remove. Simply just by tapping it, it will come clean off, and you can see that I do indeed have some stress marks on this just by pushing it into this hole. So once again, really bad quality control on these particular figures. We do get a full 360 rotation here at the shoulder as well as a 90-degree bend there as well. Full 360 rotation at the bicep as well as a double joint here for the elbow. Full 360 rotation here at the wrists, and these do actually have 2 locking points, so I have compressed these in as far as they possibly can go. However, there is a second locking point where you can actually utilise the hinge joint forwards and backwards. So this here is quite a nice example of good engineering. It's just a shame they haven't applied the same level of engineering to the rest of the figure and of course other figures in this line. As we take a look here towards the torso, we do get a full 360 rotation here at the waist. No ab crunch, and this is something that I definitely think they could have implemented here for Soundwave. This area could have been completely retooled and they definitely could have made this crunch forwards, but we do get a kick which can't even go past 90. Once again, no idea as to why there are no drop down hips on these figures. It can kick back, it can kick out. Full 360 rotation here at the thigh as well as a double joint here at the knee which can bend a little past 90. Once again, not perfect, and as this is a double joint you would certainly expect a little bit of a greater range of motion. And then taking a look here at the feet, this is the one area of where they have implemented a drop down joint, but for me I would much rather have them used it here for the hips. But just to demonstrate that, you can see how you can just take this foot here, pull it out of the socket, and it does actually extend quite a considerable amount, which will allow you to pivot the foot forwards as well as down, and of course rock it side to side. So as far as articulation is concerned, it is certainly by no stretch of the imagination bad. It's just for a figure that doesn't transform, I think that some of the joints could have been executed a little bit better. Now as far as accessories are concerned, you saw earlier on that he does come with a laser beak in the cassette tape mode. He does also come with a pair of interchangeable hands. These here are just fisted hands. The other pair that he comes with are his more traditional trigger fingered hands. This one is specifically designed so that it looks as if though he is pushing his button in order to deploy any of his minions. It is a little bit of a different sculpt when compared here to the hand that does actually hold the blaster, and the sculpt work here on the blaster looks really well done, especially where those red paint apps are concerned. This also is another area of critique. I do apologise if I'm being really hostile towards this figure, but as this is an action figure, there really shouldn't be any flaws of this nature. You can see that actually getting Soundwave to hold his gun has completely stressed out the handle beyond belief. You can see how we've got all of these awful stress marks, and it has really stressed out the actual hand as well. These are not made out of a pliable material. They are more or less made out of the same plastic as we get here for the forearms, which is incredibly solid. So once again, no idea as to why this wasn't slightly pliable. You can see a really nasty stress mark in there, and believe me, the thumb as well as the fingers in here are also very stressed. So overall, as far as an actual action figure goes, whilst it does look good and whilst the articulation is certainly adequate, I just am really disappointed in once again the quality control as well as some of the limitations in regards to some of the joints. As far as comparisons go, here we have the R.E.D. Megatron, and I think that the scale between these two characters here works really nicely. Personally, Megatron is by far the best out of the first wave, and I'm really hoping that the upcoming RC and Cheetor and even the recently announced Starscream and Bumblebee do follow suit here with Megatron, as if any of them are like Soundwave and Optimus Prime, I am 100% going to be giving this line up. And here for one final comparison with what is arguably the worst figure to come out of the line, here we have the R.E.D. Optimus Prime. And once again, I think that the scale here between these three characters works rather nicely. It will be interesting to see as to whether or not Bumblebee is slightly smaller or if he is indeed in the same scale as these figures. They do all appear at the moment to be within 6 inches, so if Bumblebee is 6 inches, he is of course going to look like a little bit of an eyesore. But overall, as far as the first wave is concerned, I do find this wave to be a major letdown, and honestly there must have been a completely different design team working on Megatron, as honestly he is leaps and bounds better than both of these two figures. Setting some of the critiques off to the side, however, I've got to say that the actual durability of these figures and the overall weight does feel very substantial. These are for sure some of the more heavier action figures that I have handled. When comparing these to the likes of the Black Series and the Marvel Legends, these feel a lot durable, so the plastic that they are using certainly feels like it is of a high grade. It's just that where the hands are concerned, that should have been pliable, and the pins I think are inexcusable. Why would they use blue pins here on an area of which is grey, and then why would they use grey pins on an area of which which is blue. These should have been reversed. The same can also be said here for Optimus Prime. You can see how he does have blue hinge joints here, whereas here on Megatron he does have grey ones. I just think that there are some really bad flaws with these figures that are easily able to overcome if the design team had just spent a little longer with these. So I guess that just about wraps up my review here for the R.E.D. Soundwave. Overall, if you are not collecting this line, then this figure here is for sure an easy pass. Go with the Netflix version or even go with the Siege version. Both of those figures are leaps and bounds better than this one, and in the case of the Siege Soundwave, I think that you can probably pick him up for the same price as this figure, or if not even cheaper, and that figure transforms, and overall he is just made better than this figure. So overall, as far as the first wave is concerned, I consider this line to be a major letdown, and I'm really hoping that RC and Cheetor can pull me out of this dark abyss and can shine some light on what was a really cool concept. I really hope that you enjoyed this review and that you did find it somewhat informative. Once again, I do apologise if this was not as positive as some of my previous reviews. I just find these R.E.D. figures to be a major letdown, especially as they do not have to transform, so there shouldn't be any limitations as far as articulation is concerned, nor as far as QC is concerned. I would love to know down in the comment section below your personal thoughts on this line if you've picked any of these figures up, and do you think I'm being too harsh on this line, and should I perhaps give it a little bit of leeway, seeing as this is only the first wave? I would love to know, so be sure to let me know down below, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.